So hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's lesson, we will be talking about introduction to complex numbers. So we have our system of numbers. So this shows the two sub-classification of the two basic classification of numbers. So we have numbers and we have complex numbers. So complex numbers is subdivided into real numbers and imaginary numbers, while real numbers is classified again into rational numbers and irrational numbers. So our main focus for today is only about imaginary numbers. So imaginary number is the square root of any negative numbers. So it can be written as a real number by multiplying the imaginary unit I. So we cannot get the square root of a negative number. That's why we represent it as a imaginary number. So pure imaginary numbers does not contain any real number. So the number form of pure imaginary numbers is b times I, which b represents any non-zero numbers like 4, square root of 5, or rational numbers, so on and so forth. So for our first example here, we simplify the square root of negative 25. So we know that the square root of 25 is 5. But since the number is negative, we just multiply the imaginary unit I to 5. So the answer will be 5i. For the second example, we have simplify square root of negative 18. So since 18 does not have an exact square root, we can simplify it by multiplying two numbers. So 18 can be the product of 9 and 2. And 9 is a perfect square. The perfect square root of 9 is 3. So therefore, we can simplify our solution by getting the square root of 9, which is 3. So we multiply it by I, and then multiply it by square root of 2. Since square root of 2 does not have any perfect squares, so we just let it to square root of 2. So the answer will be 3i times square root of 2. So we have powers of imaginary unit. So in here, we can also apply the properties of exponents when solving for the power of I. So we just memorize I raised to 1, I raised to 2, I raised to 3, and I raised to 4. So, pare-parehas na rin kasi yung patterns yan. So, mas mahalagang i-memorize mo lang hanggang I raised to 4. So, for our first example, solve for I raised to 5. So, I raised to 5 is equal to I raised to 4 times I. Since when we multiply exponents, diba, we just add them. So, since the value of I raised to 4 is 1, so it will be equal to 1. So in here, I just simplify again I raised to 4, which is I squared. So we can get the value of I squared, which is negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 1 will be equal to 1. So same lang yun sa I raised to 4, which is equal to 1 din kanina. And then times I. So the final answer will be I. For the second example naman, we have I raised to 34. So, in here, we can get the multiples of 4. So, ayan. Diba? I raised to 4. Ano ang ita-times mo sa 4 na malapit sa 34? So, we can multiply 4 times 8, since 4 times 8 is 32. And then, may kulang pang dalawa, so times I squared. So, remember that the value of I raised to 4 is 1. And then, times or raised to 8. So, any number raised to, or 1 raised to any number is just 1. So, ayan, 1 times negative 1, the final answer will be negative 1. So, for our example number 3, solve for I raised to 2016. In here, kunin ulit natin yung multiples of 4. So, we divide 2016 to 4. So, ayan, 504. Exact naman siya. So, since the value of I raised to 4 is 1, so it will always, or it will only be equal to 1 raised to 504. So, final answer pa rin is 1.